The Postal Service just moves ahead with it. El Sayed attacks Vance. And Mayor Pete 2028. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quiet Part Pod. My name is Chris. How's everybody doing? It's Sunday night. It's the start of the week, and we are ready for it. We are ready for it. There is so much news to talk about, so much fun stuff to have, and we are ready for it. How are you guys doing? Are you ready for it? We're going to find out. With that in mind, guys, before we find out, like, comment, share, follow, do all those things. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, X, VP Zone, Blaze. You can find all those places. Share these things out to the people you know and love, because the more people that come in here and hang out, more people follow, the closer we get to our goals. The more we get to our goals, the better reach we have and the more fun we can have. Yeah, do all those things. Guys, let's get down to it. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Cancel Hatred, how you doing tonight, sir? How you doing tonight? I saw you were streaming last night and I didn't get a chance to pop in. How'd that go? You know, sometimes I don't see the notifications until it's way too late, and I apologize for that, but you know, it is what it is. Hopefully you had fun there. Hopefully you had a lot of people hanging out, and hopefully you had a good time. With that being said, how's everyone else doing? We got several other people in here. Some on X, it looks like, some on Rumble. Say hi. Let yourself be known. I want to interact with each and every one of you. That's right. Guys, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got fun stuff. We got videos. We got the crazy. We found the crazy for the week, and we are ready for it. We're going to chill, have some fun, and we're going to get down to it right now. Now, as we do, we have to start off with the jokes. Get you right in the right headspace here. And who better to do that than Miss Caroline and Cows with what appears to be another dirty joke. Here you go.
Dirty joke coming in 3, 2, 1. If you don't like dirty jokes, that's all right. Don't get your clam in a jam. But if you do like dirty jokes, I'm Caroline, and I am kind of funny. So follow along. There's a man, right? Now he wants to surprise his fiancée with a very, very special gift before they get married. He decides that he's going to get her name, Wendy, tattooed on his woohoo. Now we know how anatomy works. He's got to be at full attention in order to get this tattoo. And when he's not, it's going to shrivel back down, and it just says W-Y. Okay? Wife loves the gift. She's impressed. But a few years later, they go on vacation. They go down to Jamaica. He ends up going into the bathroom, and he's standing at the urinal, doing his thing, and he glances over and notices that the man next to him, he has the same tattoo. It says W-Y on him. He looks at him, and he goes, "Hey, look at us, right? What does yours say? Is your wife's name Wendy, too?" The man looks at him and says, "No, mine says, 'Welcome to Jamaica. Have a nice day.'" Hope y'all are having a great day.
That ain't right. That ain't right. But it was funny. That was funny. All right, guys, we got more. We got Miss Patriotic Peach, and she's gonna bring us down a notch. But that was funny. That was definitely a good joke to start the week with.
Apparently asking what happens to your daughter after she's just a hypothetical to the Democratic Socialist of America, but don't worry, they have a solution: brighter streetlights.
What we really want to see is a horizon where folks are not reliant on armed enforcement to meet our public safety needs.
Right, but it says defund police on the website. That's your goal. And also to get rid of prisons and jails, correct?
Yes.
So if my daughter is assaulted, and is there any agency that would seek to find her assailant and bring him to justice?
Of course, yeah, of course,
What
absolutely.
would it be if not police, and where would he be if not a jail?
I guess I really want to avoid getting kind of caught into these hypotheticals and talk more about the reality that we're actually facing right now, which is that we're spending absolutely outrageous amounts of money on police and policing, and we're not spending money on things that actually make people safe and feel safe, which is things like actually well-lit streets. The streetlights in Los Angeles, everybody agrees it's a huge problem.
Apparently the left is allergic to data, so let's talk about it. First of all, crime doesn't only happen at night in LA. Overall crime reported in Los Angeles is actually higher during the daytime. So when you're talking about public safety, I'm not sure how bright streetlights are supposed to solve a problem when crime is happening at 3 p.m. But let's just get one thing straight, that is not a replacement for law enforcement. And here's where the argument gets absurd. Because she was asked a very real situation, hey, what happens if my daughter gets raped? And then you no longer have society relying on police or prisons. Who investigates it? Who collects the evidence? Who identifies the suspect? Who arrests him? Her response, oh, I really don't want to get caught up in the hypotheticals. I'm sorry, that's not a hypothetical. According to the CDC's National Intimate Partner in Sexual Violence Survey, the majority of women who experience rape know their perpetrator. The CDC specifically notes that most perpetrators of and other sexual violence against women are male acquaintances or intimate partners. And in the CDC's earlier national data, 46.7% of female rape victims reported an acquaintance perpetrator and 45.4% reported an intimate partner perpetrator. So how are bright lights on the street going to prevent that from happening when it's usually someone they know? In the United States, roughly 1 in 4 women experience rape in their lifetime. Just to put this into perspective, it's as common as having high cholesterol. It's more than twice as common as being left-handed. It's similar to the share of adults who have multiple chronic illnesses. 1 in 4. I wish we lived in this perfect utopia that the left wants to create, but I live in the real world, and as a woman, I wish this weren't a hypothetical. Democratic socialists want to fundamentally restructure public safety. They don't want to rely on law enforcement, and they want to get rid of prisons and jails. Okay, tell me who replaces them. Because if you're going to refer to something that happens to 1 in 4 women as a hypothetical, then I'm going to need a better answer than brighter streetlights. Apparently,
Fair points. Fair points. Now, I'm not against brighter streetlights. I'm not against that at all. But that can be in addition to keeping our current police force in place. That can be in addition to all the other things that are currently happening. Yes, we should do everything we can to make our public streets safer. But that doesn't mean removing things that are actually trying to get to the bottom of those safety issues. Not meant to remove the things that are trying to actually keep us safe, or God forbid, having to deal with the situation once the safety has been lost. They're not thinking clearly on this. Or maybe they are, and they just don't understand the problem at all. All right, guys, we got one more. We got Jake. Jake's going to come save us, right? Probably not.
Oh, people wonder why I don't like white people. Bitch, is that an infant in a hot tub? Miss Ma'am, if you want to boil shit, do it with chitlins. And before anybody's like, oh my God, that's racist. I'm talking about his diaper, you racist piece of shit. Now, just so we're all clear, she was referring to the young ladies behind her kind of looking at her a little bit weird, but let's set the scene, shall we? You set up your phone, trying to farm views at 3 young ladies in swimming suits. How very Subway of you. You then proceed to bring a baby inside that hot tub. How very Casey Anthony of you. And then you get mad because people are looking at you sideways. And then you blame the color of their skin. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the content of their character. And I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you truly didn't know. But the first place your mind went was to blame the reaction on malice instead of incompetence, which in its own right is prejudice. Hey, Hoosies, it's my daughter's 2-year birthday. You like the shirt? It says Daddy, and then it's like a 2-year-old's a tornado and shit. It's cute as hell. Hey, Hoosies, stop recording randos for viewsies. All right, get fucked, stay fucked, merching some bio. Okay, bye. Whoop.
Well, happy birthday to your daughter, Jake. And that is a good message. These people will take the time to set up the camera intentionally pointing at something that they know is going to be inflammatory. And then they say something that's completely fucking stupid. And then they try to blame it on the obvious. It's got to be racism, right? It can't be that people are just minding their own business. No. It's racism. It's racism. Because it's always racism, guys. It's always racism. They took the time to make that shot possible. They went out of their way to make this look something worse than it actually was because, well, they knew it was going to be views. And that is a part of the problem with this internet culture that we have, social media trends and whatnot, because nobody wants to get to the bottom of the actual facts of the situation and figure out, oh, hey, they weren't actually doing anything wrong, because of course they weren't. Anyway, guys, we got news. Let's get down to the news. UPS makes new rules for mail-in ballots. Now, if you've been following me long enough, and that doesn't take very long to get to this point, if you've been following me long enough, you know we've been talking about this for a hot minute now. Ever since President Trump signed the executive order asking Postal Service to explore new rules. Ever since he did that, and then the subsequent court cases that followed, you know that the post office has been doing that, and it makes sense. These are common sense measures. They should absolutely be doing it because the Postal Service shouldn't be complicit in fraud. Nobody should be forced to be fraudulent when they were trying to just do the job and follow the rules as best they can. But of course, you know, injunctions happen, and we're at this place. The United States Postal Service has released a new rule adding verification requirements to all mail-in ballots. Yeah, you know, things like barcodes. You know, it verifies that you sent a ballot out, and then when it comes in, it shows that it was sent back in, and you have tracking throughout. This is pretty common sense. These changes will not go into effect until the court lifts its current injunction. The mail service has said the changes would occur immediately if given the go-ahead. Now, we are currently waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on whether or not they can put these changes into effect. And that is sitting with John Roberts. And I believe he was reaching out, or he basically put the order out saying, hey, we're going to hear this. You got to send us in your arguments to the defendants, to the lower court judges. So this could come at any time. Under the proposed change, states would be required to collect and report basic voter information like voter's name, home address, attach a unique barcode on every mail-in ballot distributed. Again, we know who's getting a ballot, we know it got sent, and then we know it got received. This is perfectly good tracking information. This verifies that you sent out 30 ballots and you received 25 back. Well, what happened to the other 5? Well, they just didn't vote. It's not a situation where, oh, we sent out 5 million and hey, wow, we got 6 million back. That's not, this is designed to prevent that sort of thing. And at a point in time when everyone is to the point where they have such a low trust in our elections process, whether you're right or left, you have a low trust in the process. And you're like, you know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't trust this system at all. You should be looking for ways that just makes the whole process a little bit more accurate and gives you the peace of mind. It tells me, hey, we're actually trying to solve a problem. It's not going to create new problems. It's telling us that we want to solve a problem. And this should be the baseline for all of it. State election authorities would then be required to input this information into a federal ballot mail portal before the ballot is accepted into the mail stream. The USPS said it would not deliver ballots to any state and not in compliance with these changes. And that's important. It's not a hard process. The funny thing is, the Postal Service didn't actually have to do anything new to implement these changes. They already had the mail system set up to be able to do this and give secure ballot envelopes and all this and all the requirements. They just said, okay, well, here are the rules that we're going to follow. It wasn't hard. The move comes after months of attempts by the administration to collect voter information in the name of election integrity. Some experts are concerned the consolidation of all that information into federal hands undermines the Constitution's system of state-run elections. It does not do anything of the sort. If the administration can determine who is American enough to register to vote, who can prove it sufficiently, then they would have a lot of power to shape the electorate, said Jonathan Diaz, Director of Voting Advocacy for the bipartisan nonprofit campaign Legal Center. Okay, so let's dispel some myths. If the administration can determine who is American enough, that means you're a citizen or you're not. That's what that means. Don't get it twisted. Don't play this shell game with it. Are you a citizen or are you not? If we do not have a record of you being a citizen, why should we care if you vote or not? If you are not a legal citizen, you shouldn't be voting. And that is the standard. This verbal wordplay that they want to do is ludicrous. And can you prove it sufficiently? Yeah. Voter ID. Go figure. Or, wait for it, you prove that you're a citizen. This is something that all people with green cards, all documented migrants who are here on a visa are required to do. If you're already seeking citizenship, you're told you need to have your paperwork available at all times in case you're asked. This is part of the law. Again, it's not, do I control the system? No, it's just securing it. It's not controlling it. That's just securing it. These are all very valid points. The new requirements fall short of demands from President Donald Trump, whose March executive order on mail-in ballots would have established statewide voter citizenship lists from Social Security or immigration databases, established a uniform ballots, and had the USPS coordinate with the USPS Office of Inspector General and Department of Justice for investigation of suspected unlawful use of the mail involving federal election materials. Well, here's something that they're not saying. They're not understanding. The Department of Justice is expected to investigate unlawful use of the mail involving federal elections. That's already a law. Okay. It doesn't do all the executive order. No, the executive order just said, quite literally, plainly said, within the confines of the law, we would like to do these things. Can you do it? And that's what USPS has done. Now, statewide citizenship lists from Social Security, well, it's not necessarily citizenship lists statewide. It's voter roll lists, and is that person a citizen or not? Do we know? We here in the federal government, we can tell you who's a citizen based on our information, and that's perfectly acceptable. We're just asking you to compare the lists. That's it. And if your list and our list doesn't match, and you say that these 10 people are citizens, you can provide that information. We can remedy the problem before it becomes a problem. Again, they're making this seem more complicated than it actually is. Most of these demands are included, but watered down in the USPS's final rule, ultimately creating a system that would track eligible voters by name and address, but keep citizenship largely out of it. Again, it's about stopping fraud. If, as we know, in New Jersey and other states now, as we know, they were registering in the thousands unnecessarily, not by design, on getting these illegal immigrants to become eligible voters according to their own admission, and even some voted in our last elections. Well, if that's happening and we know it's happening, we should be doing the things that we can to prevent fraud. And if the fraud is occurring, well, there needs to be a remedy in place to solve that problem. That's all this is doing. No other voter information such as birth date, social security number, or other voter registration details will be uploaded to the portal, the USPS said. Postal Service will not play any role in determining voter eligibility, maintaining voter rolls, or counting the ballots. So again, Postal Service is only saying, here are the standard ballots that need to be sent out. Here is the ballot envelope that needs to be sent out. Got a barcode on it, unique to each voter. Easy peasy. These aren't real problems. This rule is not a mail-in ballot ban, or does it include military, disability, illness, or travel exemptions requested by the president. USPS says there are clear lines between data collected and statewide voter rolls, though the rule does say data collected will help to facilitate enforcement of federal law. Again, you can't commit fraud through the Postal Service. That's actually a crime. It will provide federal law enforcement with a list of individuals to whom states planned to mail a ballot and who may potentially mail it to vote, along with the associated barcode data. The USPS included in this rule. The rule comes alongside months of gridlock for the Save America Act, the GOP's signature piece of election reform that would require photo ID and proof of citizenship to vote. This should be happening. To vote in person, to vote, a person must show voter ID, proof of citizenship, and that there will be no more crooked, corrupt, or destabilizing mail in the ballots. Exceptions for military, disabled, illness, or travel. The president wrote on social media. The Save America Act non-passage is crazy and the serious threat to any politician who votes against it. The president has long demanded the bill make it through Congress, even calling on the termination of the Senate filibuster to make it easier to pass. Though Democrats and some Republican lawmakers say the rules would disenfranchise too many American voters, the White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, here's the funny thing. It's not just the termination of the filibuster. You don't have to terminate the filibuster to do these things. You don't have to. Instead, you can actually take the filibuster and follow its original intent, which is a talking filibuster. Currently, we use what's called the zombie filibuster, meaning the Senate minority leader says, "Oh, we're going to block that. We're not going to vote for that," which means now you have to pass that 60 vote threshold to even be able to vote on that legislation. That's it. He says, we're not going to do that. And then they all go home and nobody talks about it. Nobody actually gets up and speaks their mind as to why this shouldn't pass. Instead, they just let it sit there on somebody's desk. Now, when the filibuster was implemented, it used to be a talking filibuster, as it should still be if it's going to be anything at all. Talking filibuster means there needs to be somebody on the Senate floor speaking, whether it's for the bill or against the bill, or just something random. As long as somebody's talking, you're keeping the speech and debate clause going. You're keeping it open for communication purposes. Now, the reality is, even if you got up there and you read Harry Potter, there's only so many hours you'd be able to do that before we'd have to have the next person come up anyway, because you just couldn't be able to force yourself to do it any longer. Now, if we did that, again, 47 Democratic senators who would be against it, it'd take about a month at most, maybe a month and a half, and you will have gotten through all of the people who are opposing it, and then the vote can move forward. But at least that's a process that can be followed. That's a process that makes sense. I personally would like the talking filibuster to be very strictly in relation to the bill at hand. And that would make it even faster. If you have serious objections to a bill, I'm fine with that. If you have serious things that can be changed, or you want to have an amendment passed or an amendment to the bill made, I'm okay with that. I have zero qualms with this. By all means, but make it known and use the tools at your disposal to get that done. Don't sit here and say, we're just not voting for it, and then figure out how to get the other side to be able to do what they need to do. No. Actually treat the rule as it was intended when it was implemented, or get rid of it altogether. I don't personally care one way or the other, but you need to do something. Alaska's 20-year struggle to implement Real ID demonstrates just how incredibly difficult the enforcement of federal mandates can be, and how unlikely it is that the Save America Act could be effectively implemented on an expedited basis, Alaskan Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said in a statement. Well, you know what? You absolutely could have done it in the year this shit's been sitting on your desk. You absolutely could have been doing it in the year leading up to now. You could have implemented these changes. They're not even a tough requirement. They're not even a tough requirement to get done. I get it. Real ID. Oh my God. Everyone hated Real ID. That's because most states took their time and they didn't try to bother with it. Then when the official go live date was, states were like, oh shit, we didn't bother. We didn't care. We didn't do anything. Something that had bipartisan support across the board back in 2006. It was really just a kick the can down the road moment. I've had Real ID for over 10 years now. That's right. Nebraska implemented it relatively early. If you call relatively early, 7 years after the fact, but they implemented it back then. I've not had a Real ID for over 10 years now. Why? Because it was just quick and easy. I went to update my license and, hey, you want this? Sure, why not? It took no extra time. It didn't make it harder to do. I don't see what the problem was. Getting a voter ID, I could absolutely go do that tomorrow. If you told me we had to have a voter ID to vote, okay, fine. I'll go down to the office and pick one up tomorrow. I'll be first in line if that's what it needs to happen. I don't see a problem with proving who you are. This doesn't help or hurt anybody to do the bad things. No, people are going to do bad things. They don't care about these laws anyway. They'll find a new way to circumvent it, so that way they don't have to manage the new process. Free and fair elections are the cornerstone to our democracy. You mean our constitutional republic? Starting to sound like a Democrat, Senator Murkowski. As doubt is cast on their legitimacy and public trust erodes, we should be strengthening the process. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what you said. We would do well to avoid partisan reforms that sound good on paper, but may work very differently in the real world. Well, honestly, voter ID and proof of citizenship, when you go to vote, let's see. If I've got the voter ID done, then the process is I walk into the polling location. I say, Chris Noski, I'd like to vote. And they're going to say, can you show us proof that you're able to do so? I'm like, yep, here's my card. How hard is that? How hard is it for them to just say, hey, show us your ID and we're good to go? How hard is it for me to produce the ID and just go? This doesn't impact anybody who's on the up and up. Are you trying to say it's going to impact mail-in ballots? I hope it does. I hope it does. I want to see mail-in ballots be secure. I want to trust that the process was good. We're going to talk. We got a video coming up after this where the process might be a little bit tainted, and it's documented and it's going through the court system right now. But we'll worry about that in a minute. See, it's odd that a private organization, USPS, is regulated by the Supreme Court or any courts for that matter. How long until states like Michigan move from mail-in to FedEx ballots? The biggest state with the most wilderness, 100% compliance would be tough. Yeah. And we have Real ID in Wisconsin. Everywhere technically has Real ID. Alaska, I think, is the last one to officially get it. But I mean, 2 years ago, there was a major push. And it was last year. Last year when, was it Tulsi said? No, it was a South Carolina chick. Not South Dakota woman, former governor there. She said, hey, this has been a rule in effect to fly. If you plan on flying outside or anywhere, you got to have a Real ID. And that became a big thing. But it should have been implemented. This was put in place over 20 years ago. I feel like a Real ID would cover a voter ID requirement to have your address and citizenship status attached to that. Absolutely. And I'm just saying, if you need to have a separate ID, I'm perfectly okay getting a voter ID. I'm perfectly okay getting a second one. Once you get it, it's yours. You have it. It's in your pocket and you should always have it. And it contains all the information it needs to prove you are who you say you are. It's as simple as that. The USPS said it received more than 200,000 comments on the change and recognized concerns of its rule Friday. And most of those comments were people just mad at the idea because Donald Trump liked it. While the Postal Service acknowledges the range of disagreement on this point, the incidence of voter fraud does not impact the proposed rule's legal grounding. The USPS said, such enhanced visibility will help identify potential issues that would have otherwise gone undetected. And at the very least, it will provide increased assurance that any potential issues are more capable of being effectively identified and investigated. The USPS said the rule will officially be published on August 26th. A U.S. appeals court upheld the district judge's injunction in July, keeping any changes to mail-in ballots on hold while the litigation continues. And again, the Supreme Court can actually kick this back and say, yep, this is perfectly fine to move forward with. And I think they should. I absolutely think they should. There is a real harm in not implementing these changes. You know why? I've already said it. Fraud. By requiring the Postal Service to send out the ballots, that makes them complicit in any fraud that happens. You're forcing employees of the Postal Service to commit fraud as an accessory, and you can't require them to commit fraud. So there you go. There you have it. The real reason why this needs to happen. Block the fraud. Nick Shirley has done a great job finding fraud everywhere. And Medicare, adult care, child care, fraud all across the board, billions upon billions of dollars. Well, let's stop the mailing fraud of ballots. Wisconsin covered the cost as long as you did it and by the deadline. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, cancel hatred here in Nebraska. I've been showing my ID to vote for shit as long as I've been voting. I didn't know it was a common thing in other places not to show an ID. You know, they said, hey, what's your name? I said, this. Can I see your ID? Absolutely. Have no problem doing that. I tell you what. All right, guys, let's move on. All right. Now, here's something that's going to be interesting about securing our elections that maybe you didn't know was happening. And this comes from Mr. Robert Gouveia. And let's see if you notice something.
A Secretary of State now being sued for ordering her subordinates to delete election records. And you're not allowed to do that since, you know, federal law says you have to preserve them and retain them for a certain period of time. But that's not what Jocelyn Benson did. One of the
What? A Secretary of State is subverting the law?
worst secretaries now running for governor out of the state of Michigan, who's perverted and changed the rules every election cycle to give the Democratic Party an edge in our elections happening in Michigan, but also setting precedent and helping other secretaries follow her lead. She's now being sued by a person called Michelle McQueer out of the township of Bridgewater. And this one's interesting because there's a real conflict of law.
Something tells me Michelle McQueer received a lot of shit in junior high or middle school. I'm just gonna spitball and say that that's the likely outcome.
That's happening, and she's being represented by this guy right here called Kevin Kijewski, and he says Jocelyn Benson said, do what I say or go to jail, and if this woman does what Jocelyn Benson says, she violates federal law. So the secretary is demanding new crimes by her own township clerks. So Kevin says a new state rule that Jocelyn Benson just made orders my client to delete the electronic poll book records from this most recent primary within 7 days of certification. Okay, get the steal in and delete everything. But what's the problem? Federal law. It orders her to keep those same records for 22 months. But Jocelyn doesn't care. So here's the problem. If she deletes them, the town clerk, she gets up to 1 year of imprisonment under federal law. But if she refuses to delete them, she gets 90 days of imprisonment under Michigan law. Every path leads to a crime. And so now we got to sue. In fact, she actually sent a letter to Jocelyn Benson back in July saying, what should I do? If I do what you say, I go to jail. If I don't do what you say, I go to jail. Jocelyn doesn't respond at all. So we ask a judge while the record.
What you should do is you should maintain the records by sending them off to the FBI to hold on to, because they're good at storing shit apparently. And then you can say, yep, we no longer have those records. I did my job. Now, that way you're not going to jail either way, right? No, that's not how it's going to work.
Record still exists to fix this. What should we do? And this is the lawsuit that has now been filed. And so this is being brought by this guy, Kevin Kijewski, on behalf of a woman called Michelle McQueer. And she's suing Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan Department of State, and Jonathan Brader, the director of the elections. And here's some of the background that's happening here. This is the one sheet. And so he writes, to summarize everything before we zoom into the lawsuit, he says, out of Michigan, the electronic poll records for the August primary that we just had, they could be deleted within days. And why would Jocelyn want the records deleted instantly? I think we know. Federal law requires them to be kept. Today, the Court of Michigan's is now receiving a lawsuit to stop the deletion. What should we do? This woman is named Michelle. She's the clerk of the Bridgewater Township, filing a lawsuit against all the people we just identified, saying which law should we follow? In fact, she wrote over to Jocelyn back on July 6th 6, saying, I can't obey both of your commands. I need a ruling and I need an answer. She's got no response from Jocelyn at all. The rule now, it doesn't just apply to her township. It goes to everywhere, every Michigan city, every township clerk, and the November general election is going to have the same rules. Everybody needs to delete their records. So they say from her, my job is to follow the law and to actually serve the citizens. I'm told to do 2 things, says McQueer.
Actually, cancel hatred. And this is an interesting point that you bring up. State law can never supersede federal law. The state is in the wrong. Well, actually, you'll find out a little bit further into this, something interesting. State law still requires her to maintain those records and keep them for the duration as well. This is a rule by the Secretary of State. It's not even law. It's a rule put in place by the Secretary of State. And that's where it gets really, really, really interesting.
I can't. I asked the state and I received no reply, so now I'm asking the court. And the lawyer says a clerk should never have to choose which law to break. Federal law says you have to keep these records, and if you don't, you're going to be in violation of the law. Now, even keeping them just to stay safe is a crime. In Michigan, you have to delete the evidence. Refusing to carry out the rule means jail. She asked the court to rule, and of course, this is something that's been happening before. There was another woman who had to deal with this, and her name is Stephanie Scott. She's an election fraud whistleblower, and she was on with Lindell TV. And here's what she explained when she was in this position as well.
I was actually elected in the November 2020 election and took office December of 2020. And I had to run the first, to my understanding, the first and only election since the November 2020 election. And it was rerunning a school millage vote that had lost by 4. But what immediately flagged me is I was told to delete election records. It was the electronic poll book on a little USB stick. And it did not make sense to me that a $5 piece of equipment would ever be justified in deleting election records. So I just kept a copy, moved on, ran that election. And as a result, after that, one of the first things, though, I questioned was the tabulator testing. And just as a little bit more of a mathematical person sort of type of thing, it wasn't enough ballots to test the tabulator for a 1-question ballot. No, I'm sorry, it was 2-question for that. And I raised concern with the county clerk. And I should clarify, I actually was a township clerk. In Michigan, a little bit different, decentralized government with the township clerks being responsible for elections and having, dare I say, a little bit more control than the assumed county clerks across in other states. So I have standing on this. But so when I raised these questions to the county clerk, some flags were automatically going off with me and trying to let them know and trying to work with them, but to no avail. And then when it really started kicking in was the middle of 2021 with a couple of things in which they were demanding, the county was demanding my tabulator to be turned into the county so that the vendor could access it for preventative maintenance. I was questioning it and constantly reassured that it just counted ballots, to which I did my own homework and looked through the state contract. And there were a few things on there that caught my eye, that there were ballot images stored on it, that the township clerk had the responsibility for records retention, that the vendor, which we have Hart Intercivic, was responsible for providing training to retain records retention, and that preventative maintenance was completely the clerk's responsibility. So under no place. And then one additional thing, the promulgated rules for the state. Yeah, so this is a little bit different. This is in regards to modems that are locked into the machine. So they also tell us these machines are not connected to the internet. This email here shows our county IT department is collecting the IMEI numbers listed on these modems so that they have record of the internet connection.
Of course they are. So delete the records and log the modems. And so once the election is over, nobody can identify what got changed over the internet or some theory. So the lawsuit continues, and you can see here's the background on it. So the court is now asking to stop Jocelyn Benson. The lawsuit to the court is saying, what should we do? Should we save the records, delete the records, violate federal law? You're going to order us to violate the government's, Congress's rules, or should I go to jail? So we've got 2 problems here. She's a Michigan clerk and the custodian of election records. The secretary has promulgated a rule. Okay, Jocelyn submits a rule. It's not that the legislature in Michigan said you have to do this per se. It's a rule that Jocelyn made up. The rule directs the clerk clerk to delete the poll book software and the files within 7 days after the election is certified. Delete everything. Why would she want the records deleted? Because she's Jocelyn Benson. But that conflicts with U.S. code. Under U.S. law, you have to preserve the records for 22 months. And state law bars destruction of election returns before the 22-month elapse. So Michigan law says hold the records, but Jocelyn in her rules says delete the records. So the Constitution requires elected officials to keep the ballots in case there's an audit. So we don't want to enjoin any election. All we want is a declaration to say that Jocelyn's rule is invalid, or it must be read narrowly. Where it commands destruction, we need an injunction to stop this from happening. So this woman, Michelle McQueer, is a duly elected clerk. She handles these things, and the law charges her with operating the poll books. But the rule from Jocelyn impacts her directly. Jocelyn is the secretary. The others are a part of the election mechanics. Now, the court may grant declaratory relief here and order her rule to be without effect. And the silence is a pattern in this case, okay? Written testimony presented to the Joint Committee raised the conflict a long time ago in 2025. We've asked repeatedly for a declaration.
She did say ballot images were stored on devices. So when it tabulates or when you submit your thing, it keeps a record of it itself. And then you usually pull those records off, and then before the next election, and you retain that information. And that's what she's talking about. Not fake ballots. It's just they're left on the machine until they're wiped.
In writing so that these clerks know what to do. But now nobody knows. And so we're suing them in this court. We have standing. She actually governs these elections. Jocelyn's rule targets her specifically. That's why we're suing back to get answers on this. There's an actual controversy here because the plaintiff faces a dilemma either way you cut it. The rule and the retention gives her a contradictory command. She cannot obey both of these things. And so without a declaration, she's going to commit a crime one way or another. And deletion is going to happen any day now. The primary records are going to be gone, only days away. No recount, no scheduled post-election audit, no stay applies or is anticipated, and so none of the exceptions are going to excuse this. Deletion will be irreversible, so we can't wait for the clock to run. Once the records are destroyed, there is no remedy. It's going to be gone. We're going to be in violation of federal law, and the rules exceptions don't dissolve this controversy at all. The bar only lifts when Jocelyn issues its own release and says, okay, I'll allow you to maintain the records. Now, the poll books that are at issue here process votes and voters, ballots issued. On election day, they record who was processed, the ballots that were issued, each voter's processing time, entries for challenges, spoiled ballots, and other irregularities as well. And after the election, the clerk then generates the reports, transfers the data to the media, uploads voter history, deletes the poll book software and associated files, but the records are retained. The poll book and the files all relate to election acts. During the voting, software maintains an activity log, spoiling, rejection, challenging of a ballot, and more, and the records are recorded each time a vote is processed. All of these need to be evident under Michigan law, and the poll book is the instrument through which it is all processed, which is why Jocelyn wants it deleted. Now, the Bureau's own poll book manual described what the closing procedure retains. The activity log report may be viewed or printed on the device, but it's not among the reports the closing procedure requires the clerk to retain. And at closing, the voter history enters the qualified voter file. Then there's a USB drive and more. But the rule then now says delete it. The contents of that drive are subject to the same deletion requirement, requiring the deletion of the poll book software and every associated electronic file from all devices by the 7th day, and you can't keep it. So the printed precinct reports don't capture all the details, which is why we need to maintain the files. And the voter file doesn't fill the gap. Like the records come in, then they're input into another system. But the new system doesn't capture all the data. Like these records are unique in a way, and you can't just nuke them. Like if you want an audit, you're gonna have to backtrace the chain of custody for how the files ended up where they are and what actually comprises them. So the voter files then are more detailed, and the retention duties that are imposed by Michigan law and US code attached to these records. Deleting the poll book and its files destroys those records, regardless of what any final report ultimately spits out. The printed reports are generated from the poll book database, but they're not the electronic records, and it would omit certain fields and not be a one-to-one copy. So we get the gist. The U.S. Code says you have to keep these things for 22 months. U.S. Code makes it a federal crime if you don't. It's not limited to just paper. It reaches all records. And the DOJ is saying, preserve these things. They're suing in multiple locations to do the same. Michigan says the same thing under their law. Fixes the exclusive path for disposing of a record. Says only disposal can happen under Michigan law. Jocelyn is trying to change that with her own rules. And retention under Michigan, it doesn't turn on the medium of the record. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a printout or a thumb drive. All needs to be maintained. But her rule says destroy it. And it directs the upload of the voting history and other extracts in violation of the law. So the rule needs to be hammered out. The rule defines the electronic poll book to include the early voting and articulates what's in there. And she says specifically, software and files, quote, must be deleted from all devices on the 7th day. It bars deletion until the Bureau of Elections or somebody else issues a security memorandum. The rule's own audit exception extends retention when a precinct is selected for an audit. The manual identifies the electronic poll book among the subjects of those audits. And the rule is already in effect. Following at least one election, the poll book files were deleted as the rules required and cannot be recovered. The only exceptions in the rule apply to recounts, audits, and stays. And so absent some action here from the court, these files are going to be nuked as well. So what we're asking for is a declaratory judgment saying that this rule by Jocelyn, one of the biggest cheaters in America, is preempted by the Supremacy Clause and U.S. Code, and we ask you to order that accordingly. Similarly, court also say that this new rule from Jocelyn exceeds her authority. She's not allowed to issue a rule like this. It conflicts with state law and it conflicts with federal law. But this is how she operates. It collides with state governing principles about public record destruction, and that the department directed similar deletion through its election manuals doesn't cure any of this. The fact that it's happened before doesn't mean she can continue to do it. And a paper summary doesn't save the rule. A rule ordering the destruction of records doesn't comply with Michigan statute. And by ordering the destruction that the legislature never authorized, she exceeds her delegated power. She can't do that either. So we also, in the alternative, if you won't issue a declaration, just say the rule is invalid because it's not complying with the APA. All of this being submitted by the town clerk's lawyer saying, give us the following. Declare the rule is preempted and unenforceable. Declare that Jocelyn is once again exceeding her authority. And if you don't do that, declare that the rule must be construed in a way that means don't delete the records. In other words, delete the records, but not after 7 days. Delete them after the 2 years. Enter another injunction and stop this from happening. We need a speedy hearing on this. We also want attorney's fees and costs and any other remedies that are appropriate under the law. Signed by Kevin Kijewski, attorney for the plaintiff on behalf of Michelle McQueer. All signed and submitted, and they give us a bunch of exhibits down here explaining more about what's happening. A little declaration from Michelle. We've got confirmation it's been sent in. We've got a request by them over to Jocelyn Benson. Hey, what are we supposed to do here? Sent a letter. Hi, how do we handle this conflict? And it's always so curious how they want the records to be deleted. Nobody can look at the lists. You go and seize the ballots via a valid search warrant. Everybody comes crashing in to stop you from reviewing anything. And it's cover up by order. It's cover up by rule. And Jocelyn Benson is at the helm. And she's been doing this for a long time, by the way. She has tried many times over to pervert the election rules. She changed them to say that you don't even really check the signatures. You just presume they're valid. And only if you identify some reason why they're not valid do you get rid of a signature versus actually checking the signatures. You don't, you just presume they're okay and only disqualify if you identify a real big problem. So we're happy to see this lawsuit underway. Keep your eyes on Kevin Kijewski over at Kevin Kijewski on.
I have a question. So we know about this because one clerk from one township in Michigan said, hey, I'm being told to do something illegal and I can't. How many other clerks are there in Michigan that are doing what Jocelyn says without question? How many other clerks are deleting the records in violation of both state and federal law? That is an amazing question, don't you think? Because if just one is raising this as a lawsuit, why aren't the others jumping on board saying, hey, yeah, this is happening to me too. I should absolutely be going after this. We should absolutely be trying to stop this. Why is it only one? That tells you a little bit about what's going on in Michigan, does it not? It tells you a little bit about what they find important in Michigan. Interestingly enough. All right. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Going. Coffee Crew Gaming, how you doing tonight? How's your night going? Raging Gemini has rated the stream. Raging Gemini, and then there's Motley with the I Reckons. How you guys doing? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Now, I'm gonna ask both Raging and Motley Murmurs and Coffee Crew. I mean, if any of you have a link to your own channels, drop them in the chat right now. I want to tell everybody in here to give you guys a follow. So go ahead and do that for me. Natalie Harp reportedly posted 150 pro tweets on the day of the Capitol riot, guys. 150 pro Trump tweets. Does anyone else not see a problem here? I mean, this is, at the time, she's a private citizen. She's allowed to tweet what she wants. So I don't see what the problem is. That she's now working for the president is irrelevant. She was a supporter, and she's now living her dream, working for that president she supported. Donald Trump aide Natalie Harp flooded Donald Trump aide Natalie Harp flooded a since disabled social media account with pro-Trump posts on the day that the president's supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol in early 2021, years before she went to work for him and developed an extraordinarily close relationship with him, a new report has revealed. CNN on Saturday reported that the deactivated account, which Harp had on what is now known as X, was packed with fiercely pro-Trump messages on the day of the January 6th Capitol attack in Washington, D.C., including posts repeating his lies that the 2020 election, which he lost to Joe Biden toward the end of his first presidency, had been stolen from fraudsters. Fight for Trump, Harp wrote 12 times in one of more than 150 posts that day alone. She followed that with a post declaring, "Today, D.C. is Trump country." Among the other posts was the declaration, "Today we stop the steal." And as Trump delivered a speech that day, Harp wrote, "We will never give up. We'll never concede." So I'm guessing the CNN people digging up these tweets have never spent a single day on the internet, never been on Twitter, never once known how social media has worked, because this isn't new. It's not even news. All right, guys. Motley Murmurs just dropped her link in the chat. Give her a follow. She does her poetry on Rumble, and I forget what exactly she does for that. But she can tell you all about it. Go check her out. Go check her out. CNN's reporting on those posts come as the U.S. news media have put a spotlight on Harp, 35, and her near constant presence at the side of Trump, 80, during his second presidency. They so badly want to make an affair happen here. That's what they want. The scrutiny has also been fueled by intensely affectionate letters from Harp to Trump, including one in which she called him her guardian and protector in this life, because he made it possible for her to get life-saving treatment. Claims from her estranged brother that her relationship with the president is unhealthy, and a recent speech from John Ossoff, a Democratic senator from Georgia, who contended that one of the few things Trump wants to do is travel with Natalie. Okay. This is somebody who provides information to Trump, prints it out, in a format that he likes to read it in, which is not unheard of. Trump likes having paper in his hands, and that's what she does. She provides that stuff to him as a requirement of her job. She also, wait for it, is the one holding the phone, tweeting the messages that he dictates. Oh my God. Somebody called New York Times. And to attack an age is low, they have nothing else to bid. Yes, cancel hatred, 100%. This is what they're reduced to. They can't bitch about the things that Donald Trump is actually doing that might make him mad, because they've been bitching about it for the past 18 months, and that's gotten them nowhere. The social media account that CNN reported on, opened by Harp in 2016, also contained posts in which she compared Trump to a biblical figure, according to messages unearthed by the Daily Beast. So maybe a few months ago, when that truth picture came out with Trump kind of looking like a Jesus, maybe that wasn't Trump doing that one at all. Maybe that wasn't Trump tweeting that one at all. Maybe that was her. We all know the story of the Good Samaritan, Harp wrote, as she went on to recount her claim in that an intervention by Trump had saved her life while she grappled with cancer. But what you don't know is I was that forgotten person on the side of the road, left to die of medical error and cancer. The political establishment passed me by, but Donald Trump didn't. Meet my Good Samaritan, she wrote in the 2019 message. Again, these are actually good things. These are reasons to support Donald Trump. He did a good thing, and now you get, several years later, you have life. I don't see a problem with this. The X account now appears to be suspended. It remains unclear when it was taken down or whether Harp or the platform was responsible for removing the posts. Harp's official roles are special assistant to the president and executive assistant to the president, positions that come with an annual salary of $150,000. Okay. Inside of Trump's orbit, she has also earned the unofficial title of the human printer, a reference to her role supplying the president with printed information. Oh my God. The horror, the shock, the betrayal. How can she support her president so badly? CNN's report on Saturday also indicated that Harp's embrace of Trump's election fraud narrative began well before the day of the Capitol insurrection. In the weeks leading up to the attack, she told followers, "We will never give up, for truth is on our side. January 6th is coming." Okay. A lot of people tweeted that. A lot of people tweeted that exact same message. Her posts immediately following the election that ended Trump's first presidency were similarly emphatic. I can't speak today, apparently. "We love you, we love you, we love you," Harp wrote days after the election results. Then on December 14th, 2020, she denounced Biden's victory. Harp posted, "This is a coup." Again, a lot of people had that same sentiment. A lot of people had that same sentiment. The resurfaced social media posts are not the only written materials now fueling scrutiny of Harp's devotion to Trump. The Daily Beast published 2 intimate letters on Thursday, written by the Trump aide in 2023. Oh my God, intimate letters, guys. And how dare you take what you're calling intimate letters and publish somebody else's words like that? I mean, that's cruel. Besides calling him her guardian and protector, she wrote in one letter, "You are all that matters to me." Okay, give me the full context of that sentence. If you're going to do that, give me the full context, because now you're just trying to create a salacious rumor. She also wrote, "I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work." Well, these are not by themselves explicitly damning messages. What was the context of the letter? What? That's what matters. This is the thing about the left and the left-wing media. They fail to grasp the concept, the context of a sentence within a paragraph, within an entire letter, does in fact matter. You can't just take 5 words out of an entire piece of printed material and say, these 5 words are all that matters. No, context matters here, guys. Context around what you're saying matters. You are all that matters to me. That's very true. That's a very true statement that can be said in the context of, hey, you made this right to try thing a possibility, thereby granting me the ability to choose a treatment path for myself that I would not have been able to get otherwise. I could be dead right now. The things you are doing are all that matters to me. No, cancel hatred. I appreciate it. You know, you got to throw a no homo on the end of that one, though. Yeah, I'm going to institute the no homo policy. I think it's a little bit too far if you don't do that. But anyway, that they're looking for any reason to tear down anyone in Trump's orbit, and we'll see more of this too. There was a theme in tonight's segments, by the way. And it's kind of sad. This woman survived cancer. Of course, she's going to do absolutely everything in her power to do the job that she's hired to do for the person who she actually owes everything to in her mind. I don't see anything wrong here. Always intend my homos. Fine, no more homos. Hey, I'm okay with that. They aren't bothering me, but I mean, if they're bothering you, no more homos. Guys, here we go. El Sayed under fire online after taking aim at Usha Vance, female Trump aide this weekend, social media post. So this is another one jumping on the bandwagon of going after Natalie, by the way. But he expanded his reach a little bit. And he's going with the Vance family. Michigan Senate candidate's post appeared to reference the second lady's Indian ethnicity, drawing racism accusations. Well, because, I mean, his identity isn't exactly straightforward either, but here's a short little video.
The Democrat Party of graduate students rather than the union and non-union workers who make this facility run. It's sometimes actually hard to understand, like, what do these modern Democrats actually stand for? But look what they say. Pay close attention, and they'll leave these little hints of what they actually care about. Now, El Sayed, this guy running for Senate in Michigan, he once argued, not too long ago, that criticisms of Sharia law were rooted in white supremacy. I'd love to go back in time and tell my papaw that there's a man who claims to stand for working people who says not only should we have Sharia law, but if you criticize it, you're a white supremacist. That's not my papaw's Democrat Party, my friends.
Fair points, Mr. Vance. The internet is set ablaze after controversial Socialist Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed of Michigan invoked the second lady Usha Vance in taking a dig at Vice President J.D. Vance, leading some top voices to question how he would treat female staff should he win in November. You must treat your female staff the same as you treat your male staff. Fire them all. El Sayed is now attacking wives of U.S. leaders. What a guy, said former Florida State Representative Ben Graber. El Sayed, running against Republican former Congressman Mike Rogers, launched the attack on Saturday after Vance slammed him for his stated adherence to Sharia law during a rally in Ohio, suggesting the practice would be completely alien to his grandfather, whom he calls Pawpaw. Oh, that's fine. So, do we think JD is taking Usha with him back in time to meet Pawpaw, or no? El Sayed said, seemingly in reference to the second lady's Indian ethnicity. El Sayed's campaign did not return a comment request from Fox News asking him to explain exactly what he was implying. You didn't need him to return a comment. You know exactly what he was implying. Because, I mean, J.D. Vance, let's pull it up in the traditional circles. He's a hillbilly. Grandpa may not have liked Usha Vance. Grandpa may not have liked her ethnicity. And yes, that's a real thing. So yeah, it's a question. Would you raise that concern when talking about that to the vice president? Say, hey, in the hypothetical situation, do you think your grandpa would like your wife? I would hope that he would have found a reason to like her, but it's definitely throwing in the racial tones. Why does Abdul Rahman Muhammad El Sayed just assume that all white Midwestern grandparents are racist? Representative Brandon Gill said in response to the post. because it's actually historically a thing. If you're a rural white American living in Michigan, just remember LCAD believes you're racist, said a commentator, Ricky Gerdusky. This is why there were ads in the primary correctly highlighting how sexist and misogynistic Abdul is, said an X account run by Democrats supporting LCAD's opponent, Mike Rogers. He has so much contempt for women. If you're over the politics of division, reject Abdul El-Sayed. Others accused El-Sayed of being a racist himself. You're a racist creep, said journalist Emily Schrader. Well, he is good friends with Hassan Piker, so that's not a stretch to say those things. Earlier in the day, El-Sayed also made a post directed towards Natalie Harp, an aide to President Donald Trump. Far-left media and Democrats online have spent the past 2 weeks implying that Harp and Trump are having an improper relationship. Honestly, this shouldn't have to happen, but I think Melania needs to come out and say, enough of this bullshit. It's not happening, guys. You're not making this a thing because it's not happening. Natalie, I think he's had a little too much iPad for the week. He needs a rest, LCAD said in response to Trump's blasting at him at a rally for campaigning with the far-left socialist Hassan Piker, who has said that America deserved 9/11. Well, guess what? I don't think the iPad needs to be taken away quite yet, LCAD. I think there's more tweets that can be done. Directed at you, especially. This is what I'm talking about. GOP strategist Mike Whitlock posted in screenshots of the post directed at Harp and Usha Vance. Just a bad campaign, bad candidate, bad instincts. Sitting at home on a Saturday morning tweeting bad takes that any normal campaign would shut down. And this is the thing. Remember, after he won his primary and he said, you know what, we need to push forward. We need to do the unity stuff. We need to bring the party back together around my Democrat socialist candidacy. We need to do that. And this is the path forward we're going to. And he's showing that his path forward is the same as his old one. It's only been in the last 10-ish years that discussing entirely different religion change for the U.S., 240 years of Christianity, and boom, demo mas. Yeah, cancel Islam. Hey, I'm okay with that, I suppose. He goes after Usha. He goes after Natalie. This crowd picks on women who are not in this fight. Imagine how he would treat female staffers in the halls of Congress, said Tudor Dixon, a Republican former gubernatorial candidate in Michigan. Well, he himself isn't going to have female staffers. You know that, right? He's not going to have female staffers because he doesn't believe that they're qualified ever. He might run into other female staffers from other congressional members, certainly. And how's he going to treat them? With the same disrespect, obviously. No comments from JD Vance or Usha Vance. So there's that. So again, he's being every bit of a piece of shit that we expected him to be because, well, we emboldened the Democratic Socialists, not us, not you and I, not anyone watching this stream, but we emboldened, as a nation, these people to think that they had a chance. We encouraged it. I mean, honestly, we did encourage it because the Democrats had no solution. And they're like, hey, if you don't have a solution, I just happen to have a crazy idea that's even crazier than the ones that we've already failed on. This is what needs to stop, guys. I get the bipartisan dilemma. I get that there's a back and forth within Congress, and I get that nobody wants to come to the middle and actually argue in good faith. But this is what needs to happen. We need to put our differences aside and find real common sense legislation. Otherwise, we're not going to move forward as a country at all. We're never going to move forward if we can't get serious majorities going again or actual bipartisan legislation. And you can say you hate Donald Trump all you want, but when good legislation comes up, you should actually be voting on good legislation regardless of who wanted it done or not. Just my 2 cents. Let's keep going. All right, this one comes with a video. Zelensky rejects wartime elections, citing huge risk and split for Ukraine. Well, no shit. No shit.
It's a secret.
It's a secret. Okay, you told me that.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I have a lot of different plans, and it's important that I'm on my mission to defeat Russia and to save our country and to achieve all the goals to build the beautiful country.
And you can achieve those missions outside of government
Of
too.
course, of course. My name is Mikhailo Fedorov. I was the Minister of Defense of Ukraine and the Minister of Digital Transformation in Ukraine.
And it's now been a month since you were removed from your position as Minister of Defense. And I want to ask you, why do you think that you were removed from your position?
Я, знаєте, не хочу на американську аудиторію говорити чому. Давайте...
Even in America, people want to know.
Яка б не була причина мого звільнення, важливо розуміти, що Україна продовжує битися.
After your removal, there was a poll in Ukraine that 72% of Ukrainians disapproved, did not approve of you being removed. Do you think that this sort of popularity made you a threat to the president?
Я думаю, що це оцінка, це відчуття внутрішнє людей того, як було прийнято це рішення, чому не вистачало комунікації від президента, уряду, парламенту щодо тих змін, які
Let me see if I can make the subtitles actually appear fully on screen. This is going to take a lot of hard work and clever OBS play, but I think I can do it. Let's see here. This. We're going to go properties. No, not properties, filters. Filters, I say. Okay. That's probably wrong. Okay, that should fix it. Can you read those now? Cancel hatred. Can you read those now? I can't fire my producer because then the podcast won't happen because I'm my own producer, sadly. I know. It's a shocking thing to learn that that's the case. It's shocking to learn that that's the case. But that's what it is. I am my own producer. All right, here we go.
відбулися. Свободу за демократію і те, що є певна позиція народу, є певна комунікація між владою і народом. Це хороший показник демократії.
The protests that we're seeing shows that Ukraine is still a strong democracy.
And it's very important for our future and for this war. Yeah, it will be the next stage of this war where robots and drones will fight with different autonomous robots and drones, and this is an inevitable future.
It's an inevitable future that robots will replace humans.
100%, yeah.
How long before that front line is completely robots? When will that happen?
Це залежить від швидкості інвестицій, розвитку технологій, інновацій. Це може бути як через півроку, так і через рік. When the full-scale invasion began, we have all the technologies in the world and even in Ukraine to organize the army of drones.
Did you bring that vision?
Yeah, of course. Our team launched the army of drones. The speed of movement and the speed of robotization in the first line depends on our vision and our action.
His first answer was he didn't want to give that answer to an American audience. Cancel hatred. He didn't want to give that answer to an American audience. So that's what you missed. And welcome in Katie and Greg, Ohio. How you guys doing? How you all doing?
How to do it and to organize it. First of all, to change our tactic, to change our doctrine of this war, and what is more important, to change our organizational structure.
But if you're outside of government, who's going to make those changes?
I think we have a decentralized network through our corps and brigades, and we have a lot of different leaders in our army. And with our Western partners, with my team, I think we can organize this process, and it's only a matter of time.
There aren't many people who can claim credit for forcing Elon Musk to change his mind about something, but you can. You negotiated Ukraine's use of Starlink and ending Russia's use of the technology several months ago. Can you tell me what that was like dealing with him and brokering that negotiation?
По-перше, я хотів би сказати, що Ілон Маск, напевно, найважливіша технологічна людина і підприємець з усього світу для нашої країни. Після того, коли Ілон Маск відключив і SpaceX відключили Starlink для росіян, які використовували незаконно на території нашої країни, по суті, він врятував і систему нашої протиповітряної оборони, і нашу авіацію, і взагалі врятував тисячі життів наших цивільних.
Ви розмовляєте з Elon Musk зараз? Are you speaking to Elon Musk right now?
Ми постійно так маємо комунікацію. Так.
There have been reports out there now that President Zelensky wants approval to use Starlink to strike Russia's ballistic missile sites. Are you involved in discussions to get that approval from Starlink?
I can't open all the secrets and our plans.
That sounds like a yes.
About it, but of course it could be a game changer for us because we don't have enough anti-ballistic missiles for our Patriots, and we need to destroy Russian ballistic launchers.
Ukraine will have its own ballistic missile soon. Do you believe that?
Of course, 100%, but we need time.
When do you think we'll see a Ukrainian ballistic missile hit a target in Russia?
Our ballistic missiles.
Your ballistic missiles.
3-6 months, I think.
3 to 6 months, a Ukrainian ballistic missile will hit Russia.
Yeah.
When you became Minister of Defense, you outlined 3 central goals, what you wanted to do. You wanted to beat Russia in the air and on the ground and undermine the Russian economy. Of those different goals, which do you think you were most successful at accomplishing?
Я думаю, що ми в кожному напрямку маємо певний результат, тому що за цей час ми і деокупували рекордну кількість територій за останні роки, і знищили велику кількість росіян на кожен квадратний метр. У нас задача була як мінімум 200 росіян знищувати. Ми більше набагато почали знищувати. Ми для цього велику кількість проєктів запустили. Тому, якщо ми говоримо про нашу територію, то ми змогли зупинити просування росіян в той темп, який був до цього, і навіть повернути частково свої території. Ну і по діпстрайкам всі наші сили оборони зробили велику домашню роботу для того, щоб за останній час ми змогли досягнути великого результату, і ми це бачимо. Але найголовніше, ми змогли дуже швидко поставити Росію в таку ситуацію, де ми володіємо ініціативою. Тобто їм приходилось реагувати на те, що ми робили, і шукати відповіді. І дуже важливо також розуміти, що це робота 24/7. Те, що це було вчора, не означає, що це буде завтра.
You were instrumental in the campaign to separate Crimea from the Russian mainland. What more needs to happen for that to be accomplished?
Важливо, що ми це досить заздалегідь спрогнозували і зробили ставку на middle strike дрони. Потрібно наращувати темпи цих ударів і потрібно змінювати постійно тактику з нашого боку. Ну і потрібно це масштабувати. Є ще деякі секрети, але я думаю, що про них краще публічно не говорити.
The key to this war is isolating Crimea.
It could be our key.
And are you winning that war over Crimea right now?
It depends on our following actions.
Right now, you need to change what you're doing there.
We always need to change that we are doing because it's a technological war and we need to defeat Russia in every technological cycle and we need to make decisions 24/7.
So you're innovating fast, but Russia is innovating too.
100%, yeah.
Do you have faith that the people in charge now will be able to carry forward your vision, the vision of the future of war here?
Нам дуже пощастило, що в Україні є десятки, сотні, тисячі людей, які впливають на інновації. Це не тільки моя робота або моєї команди. Я впевнений, що і я нікуди не зникаю. Я буду ділитися своєю візією, я буду організовувати проекти, які...
It's not just you, it's a team of people who have been carrying out these reforms.
Yeah.
I want to zoom out at the end here and talk about where the war is today. What can we expect in the next few months? What is the direction this war is heading in?
Я думаю, що ми про це, в принципі, трохи вже поговорили. Я думаю, що Росія продовжить, вони розуміють дефіцит наших антибалістичних ракет, тому вони продовжать і почнуть кампанію по енергетиці активно. Вони будуть намагатися повністю економіку нашу зруйнувати. У нас не було достатньо ресурсів фінансувати війну. Це частина їхньої стратегії. З нашого боку, у нас є всі можливості продовжити реалізовувати стратегію, яку ми почали. Тобто потрібно швидко реагувати на ці виклики, потрібно знайти нові способи боротися із балістикою, із реактивними шахедами, збивати носії кабів. Ну і, звичайно, продовжити розвивати middle strike кампанію, ізолювати також регіони в Росії, продовжувати deep strike місії, почати виробляти велику кількість дешевих ракет, які будуть атакувати Росію, балістичну кампанію продовжити. Тобто, десь так найближчий час будуть виглядати плани нашої країни і країни-агресора.
We've seen Ukraine be able to counter Russian drones now at rates between 90 and 95%.
Yes.
You think that Russia will learn from this and be able to do the same for Ukraine if you don't innovate more?
Of course. They have, I think, the same interception rate against our deep strike drones, but we need to change this technological solutions for our deep strike drones, and it will be the future of this war, cheap missiles with AI strike. It will be the future of this war.
My last question for you is, how do you think this war will end?
Я думаю, що ми своєю силою організації, асиметрією і партнерством з сильними західними країнами зможемо зупинити росіян. Війна стане для росіян безсенсовна. Вони не зможуть нічого досягнути стратегічного, і кожен день продовження війни буде для них дуже небезпечний. Небезпечний, що Росія взагалі може опинитися в ситуації перед розпадом і перед великою кризою. І в той момент, коли Путін або вже не Путін зрозуміють, російська влада зрозуміє, що вже питання стоїть їхнього існування, вони зупиняться. І так і не отримавши стратегічної переваги, не досягнувши жодної своєї стратегічної цілі. І тоді буде ceasefire і вже мир в Україні. Оце, що нас чекає. Але до цього, звичайно, що нас чекає пекло, складні часи, багато викликів, багато змін. Але врешті-решт, завдяки мудрому українському народу і сміливому, ми зможемо все це отримати. Ми свій тест за останні вже 12 років здали і показали, що українці – це нація, яка продовжує формуватися і має дуже позитивну тенденцію до того, що стане по-справжньому незалежною.
All right. Interesting things, right? Interesting things. And that, for anyone who doesn't know, was the former Minister of Defense for Ukraine before Zelensky fired him a little bit early last month, I believe it was. So interesting things. Ukrainian President Zelensky rejected the idea of holding elections during the war with Russia 4 days after the former defense minister publicly called for them. I believe that in a war like this, elections as such are a huge risk. Elections right now are a tsunami for the country that will split Ukraine, Zelensky said. And of course, that's what he's going to say. That's, of course, what he's going to say. Because he should have been having elections 3 years ago, I believe it was, 4 years ago. And he's just held on to the power this entire time. That is what Zelensky's going to say. And that's why this war continues. We could have negotiated a ceasefire. This could have happened, could have ended the conflict way back when. And they could have held their elections and we could have found out what the direction of Ukraine was going to actually be. But Zelensky's like, no, we're not doing that. Russia is supplying drones to Iran. Russia's supplying drones to Iran, absolutely. And Ukraine's bombing in the Middle East too. Go figure. Ukraine's former defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, who was fired last month, posted a video Tuesday where he called for the country to be given a chance to go to the polls. In a video, Fedorov said democracy cannot be held hostage by Russia and called for a legal, safe, and realistic mechanism that will allow Ukraine to restore full democratic process, even amidst a prolonged war. We are fighting precisely because we want to remain remain a free European state, he said. The move was widely seen as the largest challenge to Zelensky's power since the start of the conflict, but the ousted minister did not reveal whether he had any political ambitions for himself. The president imposed martial law, which prohibits elections from being held when Russian forces invaded the country in 2022. In an interview aired Sunday by the BBC, which CBS News international partner, Fedorov said the Ukrainian president had questions to answer about the alleged corruption in his government, citing a money laundering investigation announced last week. He also told the BBC Ukrainians should not be afraid of discussing the idea of holding elections during the war. If I cannot share my ideas and be open about them with my own society, then what are we fighting for? Zelensky fired Fedorov in mid-July, citing an unsolvable feud between Zelensky and between him and Zelensky's top general, Alexander Syrsky. The move sparked weeks of protests from thousands of people across the country, criticizing the removal of a widely respected minister. Fedorov was credited with turning the tide of the war in Ukraine's favor, increasing Ukraine's strikes deep into Russia tenfold and bolstering its domestic arsenal. So yeah, he's critical to why Ukraine is where it's currently at in this situation. He is critical for coming up with the strategy to use the drones in the way that they have, and it has made a huge difference. Now, Russia has adopted the same tactics, and they're doing the same similar things, but I don't think it's exactly the same now, do you? It's not exactly the same, and it's just a matter of who's going to innovate and who's going to take this to a different level and see who wins. That's what it's going to come down to. And he would have been in position well to benefit after this conflict is over, if it ever comes to an end, to then take Zelensky's spot. Remember, Zelensky's so far refused, quite literally refused, to try to even move the needle against Russia in terms of political maneuvering. He doesn't want to have those talks. He doesn't want to do anything other than ask for money to keep the fighting going. And this is going to be his biggest downfall. I think if they did have an election, he would not continue to be president of Ukraine unless he took it by force again. And then that tells you all you need to know about him as a president. He wants to be a dictator instead. So I think I agree with Katie in saying that they do need to have an election. They need to be able to choose who's going to provide that direction for the country as they see fit. Maybe they want to concede to Russia and actually move on with their lives and grow and be strong again. But it's going to come down to whoever's sitting there in their version of the White House. I don't know what that is. And at the head of the government saying, hey, this is the direction we're going because we care about Ukrainians and not, some feud with a foreign leader over something that we can't win. Zelensky is afraid of losing control and money, 100%. I agree with that 100%. All right, guys. We got more. We've got so much more. Let's keep going. Buttigieg returns to South Carolina as he weighs another White House run. Good old Mayor Pete. I guess he's done chest feeding now, huh? The last time Pete Buttigieg was given a political speech in South Carolina, it was to mark a distant finish in the state's primary that effectively ended his campaign for president. No, announcing his campaign for president effectively ended his campaign for president. I'm just saying. Returning this weekend as he mulls a second run for the White House, Buttigieg set out to reintroduce himself to the state and the black voters he struggled to win in 2020. The results were encouraging. There was a standing ovation in a black church in South Carolina when Buttigieg was credited for helping bring millions of federal dollars to the area for a project as President Joe Biden's transportation secretary. A second ovation came as Buttigieg gave a speech warning of a country in big trouble while laying out his own vision for what should come next. There is no such thing as again in real life. The only way out is through, Buttigieg told the crowd of more than 200 people at an NAACP Freedom Fund dinner. If we recognize and embrace the future that is different from the past, we will do better. I don't like Pete Buttigieg, by the way. The warm applause was markedly different from reception than 6 years ago, when a fourth place showing in South Carolina helped derail Buttigieg's presidential campaign while exposing his failure to connect with black voters. The state is likely to have an even greater say in his political future as the first contest in the Democratic presidential primary in 2028. Starting the election calendar in South Carolina is intended as in part to give black voters a greater voice at the outset of the nominating process. For Buttigieg and other potential contenders, winning the support of this group makes up that majority of South Carolina's Democratic electorate is essential. They always got to go after the black voters. You got to do it. You only care about them when it's time to get elected. Isn't that funny? You only seem to care about this one group of people when it's time to be asking for their vote. Why is that? You need to demonstrate that you can win black voters, said Jamie Harrison, a former Democratic National Committee chair and South Carolina Democratic Party chairman. If you can't win black voters, you can't be the nominee of our party. There's always a standing ovation in a black church. That's their thing. I was thinking that, Cancel Hatred. I was thinking that exact same thing. Buttigieg insists that he has made no final decision about whether to run for president again. Right now, I'm totally focused on 2026, he told the reporter Saturday. But his South Carolina trip, a week after visiting another early voting state, Nevada, had all the trappings of a potential presidential bid. He raised money Friday in Charleston with Nancy LaCour, a U.S. House candidate trying to flip a Republican-held seat. On Saturday morning, he spoke at a policy conference before traveling to Claflin University, a historically black university in Orangeburg. Davina Perry, a 30-year student in Claflin, said she came away from Buttigieg's visit thinking he would be a good candidate if he ran. I mean, he's a good candidate if you need somebody to put up to lose. Secretary Pete has definitely put himself on my radar for 2028 now, for sure, Perry said. But she added, I do want to see more representation from people who look like me. It's all about the identity. It's all about the identity politics. That evening, Buttigieg attended a dinner at a church in Orangeburg, a nearly three-quarters black city with deep history in the civil rights movement. The crowd included local NAACP leaders, ministers, and elected officials. Buttigieg worked the room, giving hugs and taking photos. Got to shake those hands, kiss those babies. That's right. Got to do it. He is responsible for the railroad corner, he said Orangeburg Mayor Michael Butler, referencing a project aimed at revitalizing the city's downtown that received $22.7 million federal grant. Do I need to say any more? We need to stand and welcome the former secretary. Buttigieg used the speech that followed to make a broader case about the direction of the country, arguing the Democrats cannot separate Americans' economic frustrations from political system he described as an increasingly broken. I've come to believe that the kitchen table cannot be improved unless we are also reforming the institutional and political floor on which that kitchen table sits. Poor Buttigieg, the weekend offered signs of how much has changed since he came to South Carolina in 2020 as a 38-year-old Indiana mayor asking voters to take a chance on him. He points to what he delivered during the 4 years of the Biden cabinet, including specific projects in the state. Did he ever go to that place in Ohio where the train derailed, where the chemical stuff happened? I mean, did he ever go there? I don't think he ever went there. I thought he was still on vacation or maternity leave. His speech was what you talk about at the kitchen table, how America is going to survive all this, Butler said. He brought hope to us. South Carolina Democratic leaders say the close personal engagement with candidates is exactly what they hoped for. Those involved in the push to make South Carolina first envisioned the living room conversations and retail politics long associated with Iowa and New Hampshire. You've got to go all over the place, Harrison said. You have to make meaningful investments. That's how you win South Carolina. Buttigieg is hardly alone in his early trip to the state. Other potential 2028 contenders, including Governor Gavin Newsom, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, and Representative Ro Khanna of California, and U.S. Senator Cory Booker of New York, have made trips to the state as what is expected to be a large Democratic field begins to take shape. Former Vice President Kamala Harris already has deep ties in the state. Yeah, and she breaks out her black voice, too. The electorate they will encounter has changed from 2020, when Biden's victory in the state resurrected his presidential campaign and put him on the path to ousting Republican President Donald Trump. 4 years later, Trump defeated Harris and returned to the White House, which black leaders say has significantly hurt their community. Earlier this year, a Supreme Court decision weakened a core provision of the Voting Rights Act, threatening black political representation across the South. Well, no, it just said you can't make your districts based on race, which is what the Voting Rights Act is all about. It's saying your district cannot be based on race. Isn't that funny? We must start our process where democracy must still be fought for in the full view of the nation, former interim DNC chair Donna Brazile said in a speech this year, advocating for South Carolina to go first. Buttigieg addressed that anxiety directly Saturday night, describing efforts to weaken the Voting Rights Act and as a culmination of a multi-decade effort. He warned of a broader push to demolish African-American political power. Harrison said Buttigieg's trip this weekend was a good start, but that Buttigieg and all the other potential 2028 candidates have a long road ahead to prove themselves to the state's voters. It has to be a good start. And then you've got to continue, Harrison said. It can't just be, pop in, and then I'm going to pop back out. You know what else? You know what else you can have happen? You know what else you can have happen here? If this state has such a large black population, how about run a black candidate? If you want more representation for you in this state, why aren't you putting forth black candidates and voting them into office? Could it be because while you may want somebody who looks like you, none of them have any policies that you care about. None of them want to do the things that you want them to do. And there's probably a reason for that. But me saying that, it's a racist statement, right? No, I have nothing against the man running for office, black, white, or otherwise. It doesn't make a difference to me. If they have good policies, I'm agreeing with them, I will absolutely vote for somebody. But you guys are the ones saying, hey, we're only going to elect this old white guy. I mean, time after time in most demographics, even when you had districts that were primarily set up to be predominantly black, they still voted in old white guys. Isn't that weird? But no, I'm the crazy one. Let's keep going. Jared Kushner and Democratic leader Jeffries meet with House control at stake in November. The House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and President Donald Trump's son-in-law and outside advisor Jared Kushner met privately recently in New York, a signal that the White House is seeking ways to work with Democrats if they wrest majority control from Republicans in the midterm elections. The meeting, first reported Sunday by the New York Times, touched on issues ranging from housing, immigration, to the high costs of living. People in the United States are struggling under the inflationary prices that Democrats blame on Republicans alongside Trump for failing to get under control. Well, we blame them, they blame us. It's nothing new. Kushner suggested that Jeffries, who was in line to become the House Speaker if Democrats regain power in November, meet with the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles as a follow-up. Jeffries, in a statement Sunday, did not mention the private conversation, but said the Republican administration needed to drop the GOP's my way or the highway approach that has failed the American people. Well, you know, it's funny because that's exactly what the Democrat Party has done for decades. They want all the negotiating to be, we want everything that we want and none of what you want, and that's what we call compromise. Well, they're finding under Donald Trump that negotiation tactic doesn't work. And we're sitting here saying, no, we have the majority. This is what we want to do. Either you get in line or we don't do it. To stop the madness, we repeatedly made clear that extremist approach will not work and will be met with forceful opposition. The question is whether Republicans will join us. Now you should be joining the Republicans. The meeting shows the depth of the Republican Party angst over losing their congressional majority, particularly the House, and the need to make inroads with the opposing party as the White House seeks to stem any potential political fallout on the president. If Democrats retake power, the White House can expect an aggressive oversight agenda into what Jeffries has called the crooks in the administration, with the threat of impeachment among many tools at the party's disposal. Impeach away. By all means, impeach away. I mean, impeach him every day for all I care. It doesn't matter. You just want to keep saying, hey, he's been twice impeached, 4 times impeached, 20 times impeached. It doesn't fucking matter. House Speaker Mike Johnson, a close ally of Trump, bristled Sunday when asked about the meeting. He minimized the role that Kushner, he said, hedges his bets, plays in the White House. I'm telling you what, you better not bet against the White House Republicans, Johnson said. I don't know what it was about. I know Jared has interests in lots of other things going on. He's not really directly involved in the admin, at least in the day-to-day of the White House. The White House did not respond to a comment. A representative for Kushner also did not respond. Jeffries and Kushner are not strangers. The New Yorkers allied during the first Trump administration on landmark legislation to allow sentencing flexibility for certain drug offenses as a way to curtail lengthy terms of federal prison system. While not necessarily close, the two have maintained a relationship despite the repeated attacks Trump has leveled against Jeffries and the Democratic leader's responses in Trump's second term. Kushner has an oversized role despite having no formal position in the White House. He serves as the outside advisor and envoy, particularly shuttling 2 foreign diplomatic missions as the U.S. war against Iran drags on into its 6th month. Trump has only met with Jeffries once since the president returned to the White House, taunting the House leader and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer of New York with red Make America Great Again 2028 caps on the desk in front of them in the Oval Office, a nod to Trump's toying with the unconstitutional 3rd term in office. He's not going to get a 3rd term, guys. Stop taking this so seriously. After that fall meeting, Trump posted a fake image of Schumer with Jeffries wearing a sombrero with a handlebar mustache and what was widely viewed as a racist trope as he mocked the Democrats before what became the longest federal government shutdown in history. Honestly, it was funny as shit. I don't care. Yeah, once, twice, 3 times impeached, and yet he's still my president. No, I agree. I agree with you, Cancel Hatred. I agree with you there. Impeach him 24 times. I do not give a shit. You're not removing him. You're just wasting time. Trump has been able to alternately ignore Congress as he relies on sheer force of executive power to implement his priorities or to pressure the Republicans in the House and Senate when needed to fall in line behind the White House, particularly to confirm the controversial cabinet nominees. I mean, this is no different than Obama or Biden either, by the way. The executive orders have become untenable at this point. Congress isn't legislating in the appropriate way because they can't agree on anything. So the only thing to get can get done is executive orders. And that's not unique to the Trump administration. All that is likely to change if Democrats control either chamber, with lawmakers eager for Congress to flex their own power as a co-equal branch of government, more willing to hold the White House in check. If they would have done their job over the last 80 years, without ceding power to the White House or the judiciary, then maybe we wouldn't be in this position. If Congress would not have ceded their own power, their own authority, because they didn't want to do the work, then we wouldn't be in this situation. House Republicans are counting on Trump's popularity among their core voters as they struggle to hold onto a majority control, with Johnson believing the GOP will defy history that tends to reward the challengers in midterms and punish the party in power. The House GOP has a slim majority. Control will likely be won or lost in a handful of battleground districts as Democrats put forward candidates and what they hope will be something of a repeat of 2018 when they swept to power, riding a wave of voter unrest during Trump's first term. No, that wasn't a wave of power, by the way. That was a weak showing. They barely got control when it was expected to be a big blue wave. It was supposed to be major changes, and they didn't get it. While the House is most at risk for Republicans this year, he narrowly split Senate is also increasingly in play. GOP strategists worry about an enthusiasm gap on their side as Democrats appear more eager to head to the polls. At the same time, Democrats are nominating outsider candidates, some aligned with socialist agendas, over establishment-backed candidates in a sign of voter unrest with the status quo. And honestly, the Senate enthusiasm for the Senate would be much, much higher if the Senate would actually do something. Pass the SAVE Act. Stop getting your shit stalled out of things that people actually want. Voter interest would be there in support of you if you actually did this. Anyway, guys, we got time for one more thing. And, you know, I think we need this. I think we need it. So here it comes. Six juveniles flee in a police car, flee police in a stolen car. Now I'm going to fix something. I'm going to go back to what we had because I don't want you to miss anything in this video here because it matters. It matters. And I'll just figure out a different solution for what we had before. That's right. What do you guys think of the news today? Has it exceeded your expectations? Or are you thinking that's wild? That's so wild. I mean, I find it hard to believe that you're shocked by the things you're hearing today. I find it hard to believe because this isn't anything new. All right, we've almost got back to normal. Almost there. There we go. Went too far, but there we go. There we go. You ready? Here we go. Police chase 6 juveniles run in a stolen car. You're going to love this. You're going to absolutely love it, I swear.
Mike, get the front of the car and I'll get the back.
Move it in. They're in. They're in. Move in. All right, they're getting out. They hit a vehicle on the lot. Boy William. I'm in pursuit. We're going past the front entrance of Home Depot here. One pedestrian, they're back in the store. They're now back northbound in the lot. Looking for the main entrance out to 124.
They're going back south. Back south. They're going to go out the wrong way on Capitol. Going through the grass to Capitol. I'm right on them. They're looking to go east. Across all traffic. Stand by. They're going west. All right, they're westbound from 124 on Capitol, lane 2. Coming up some medium traffic, speeds about 45. Rear bumpers hanging off. Have someone go to Noodles and check on the vehicle they hit. There was a lady outside. She looked okay. She did not get hit. Still westbound from 128, speeds about 50.
106, I am number 2 behind 141.
All right, they're going to make a U-turn, potentially, and go back east on Capitol.
Something I've noticed when watching these car chases, and it strikes me as odd, because when I was learning to drive, when I was studying the manual, when I was taking all the tests, there was something that clearly stood out. When an emergency vehicle, whether it be law enforcement, ambulance, or a fire truck, has their lights and their sirens on, you're supposed to, make your way to the side of the road so you're not impeding their ability to do what they're doing. Right? That's still a thing, is it not? So why is all this traffic still driving along like there's nothing going on? Can they not hear the sirens? Can they not see the lights? Are they not being situationally aware as they should be while operating a motor vehicle? This is just something that stands out to me as odd.
Back east on Capitol. Occupied by 5. I think looks like 2 females. 3 black males, hoods up. Right on them, lane 3, speeds 55.
106, I have a 3rd spot behind me. I will take a 4th.
Coming up to stop traffic at 128.
The area of Capitol and Mason.
All right, they're eastbound, westbound lanes. Light traffic here. They're coming up to 124. They're slowing drastically. Corrected themselves. They are now eastbound. Eastbound lanes. Eastbound lanes.
Capitol 6. They're still west, approaching eastbound, coming underneath.
About a block and a half behind them, we're catching up. Speed's about 80. Yeah, a little bit of traffic.
Okay, clear, Capitol 6.
All right, they're coming up now. Lane 2, slowing drastically. They're going over to the turn lanes. Now they're coming back.
I did not catch the city, so I don't know.
All right, still eastbound lanes. I am number 2. I have an unmarked Ford F-150 in front of me. Not sure who it is.
Maybe Brookfield.
10-4. I think Brookfield's bowing out. I'm now number 1. Coming up to 100. Speeds 85. Lane 1. Light traffic. No pedestrians. Positive sticks. Coming up to 92, speeds about 90. They're slowing drastically for the red, slowing. They're going southbound. 9-3, south on 9-3. East on Melvina. They got tires going down. Again, 5 to 6 in the car. We're back north on 9-2. Slowed for the red, we're through the red. Speed's about 55. Again, tires going down. Black Hyundai Sonata, Illinois plates. Occupied by 5 or 6. We're still northbound. Looks like they got left side tires are down. Speed 75, crossing home.
6, are we back?
Affirmative. All right, they're northbound, southbound lanes, intentional here. Very slow, coming up to Congress. All right, we corrected ourselves. Still northbound from Congress. I'm right on them. Left side tires look down, rear bumper's falling off. Black Hyundai Sonata, stolen vehicle. Attempted to steal another in our city. Northbound coming up to Hampton. A lot of smoke coming from the...
So you see something that's happening in this video that speaks to a different problem we have in society. And that's our current video game industry, right? You see Grand Theft Auto, you see Need for Speed, you see all these video games where they encourage you to drive all over the road to achieve your goals. And these are juveniles. Where do you think they learned these tactics? They drive into oncoming traffic with little regard for themselves or others. And then they're wondering, well, what'd I do? Well, guess what? You done fucked up. And we're going to find this out. They're going to find this out here soon.
Speed's about 80, light traffic.
Use caution, it was used in a carjacking in Brown Deer.
All right, we lost a tire here at Hampton. 45 miles an hour. All right, they just got pinned in by another truck. Bail, bail, bail.
Now, would it be racist of me to identify some demographics that I just saw on screen, or should I just let it lie there and we'll figure that out a little further?
Get him, get him!
Okay, 9-2 in Hampton. Fail, eastern north, eastern north.
We got two hiding in front of this brick building right here, right across from right by the gas station.
That's right, see about it.
Right by the gas station.
That's right, see about it. Both of us will be coming across the river on this chain for purpose.
Don't move. 141 for the air. We got 3 in custody, 2 went east. We're looking for 2 that went east from here.
I have 1 in custody and 9 at the auto place.
So those are the ones I saw then.
2 out this way. There should be 2 male blacks and black. We're in black. Sit up on your black car. Take her. I gotta check my camera. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
MPD squad 7140. Show me the area of 9 Hampton. How many in custody?
128, I'll be out at 9-1 Hampton.
What?
You need
Got 3 at the gas station.
All right,
We got another one. We're looking for one more. I'm just trying to review some footage.
All right. We got 4 out of 5 in custody so far. We're just looking for one more. Command, I'll get you a count on how many we have in custody in just a minute.
We got 3 at the Amstar for sure. 2 others went east and north.
What happened to your flashlight?
Oh, that's where I couldn't find it. Probably when I jumped over the car.
Trying to figure out how many. I was counting, but I don't.
And we're sick.
Can you ID the driver?
All right, there's going to be 2 out. The ones we didn't get definitely went east initially.
Here, I might have got them on mine too. I'll be right back.
I made contact with the victim of the noodles. She's okay.
Okay.
I told her to stand by. If you don't leave me here, I'll go back up there and take her.
Excellent. Yeah, that'd be great.
We have anybody back here? I want to see if we got. We might not have the driver yet.
Now, I do want to say that the incredible way they were stopped. You're going to hear the details of how incredibly lucky that the stop actually occurred when it did.
106 or 135.
Hey, the driver is a black hoodie, blue jeans, green underwear sticking out. He was second one out of the front.
Black hoodie, blue jeans, green underwear.
Yep. Go ahead. You got a guy?
No, little girl. We're just looking at the last one's gonna be the black hoodie or black jacket.
There's 6 of them. The driver we didn't get yet. He's a black hoodie, blue jeans with the green underwear.
Come here. Is this him?
Jordan's on.
Does anyone remember a time when the description of somebody didn't have to include the underwear choice? I remember, I was young, but it used to be that Nobody knew what the fuck you wore for underwear unless they saw you with your pants off. And now it just seems commonplace.
So that's the one I caught right there. So he bounced off and then ended up going
602 for description.
No, that's not going to be. He's a winter jacket. That's a driver right there.
Okay.
141, I think we'll look for one more. That'll be the driver. Black hoodie, darker blue jeans, I think green underwear hanging out. Looked like he was last seen going northeast. Husky brand screwdriver in the flight path of suspects that were taken into custody.
The light was red.
Yes.
I think none of the cops could get through. This car, when I looked to get over, this car was back where that sign is.
Correct.
So I didn't know they were chasing him. I thought they were just coming to get, and I pulled over. By the time I got over, I was just trying to let the cops through, you know, because it was backed up.
Luckily, officers were able to find the remaining juveniles nearby and take them into custody. This incident all started at Home Depot, where the 6 juveniles were allegedly engaging in a retail theft. When a Home Depot employee reported their suspicious behavior, officers arrived at the location, and the events you just saw in the body cam footage followed. An officer now returns to the Home Depot to get a witness statement from the employee who reported the juveniles.
Where were you when you first saw them?
Yeah, like I said, seen them around with the screwdrivers and the gloves or whatever. So at the car, we seen them roll the window down and they kind of threw this out the window.
Packaging.
Yeah. So that was my confirmation, like, yep, they got it, you know.
The Home Depot employee is likely referring to the packaging of a Husky brand screwdriver, which explains why an officer found one in the flight path of the juveniles after the foot pursuit. The vehicle the juveniles used was confirmed to be stolen, and the Home Depot employee also stated he believed they were planning on trying to steal another vehicle right before officers arrived on scene. The driver of the vehicle was charged with felony eluding an officer, felony second-degree recklessly endangering safety, felony operating a vehicle without consent, and resisting obstructing. The 5 other juveniles were charged with operating a vehicle without consent as a passenger and resisting obstructing. All 6 juveniles were transported to the Children's Detention Center, and all charges were referred to Children's Court. They are all presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law.
Unless you charge a juvenile as an adult, they're gonna end up going into a Children's Detention Center, not the jail. I'm retired Sheriff Mark Lamb from Arizona, and I'm filling in for Officer John here at Midwest Safety. Big shoes to fill. I've been involved in many pursuits throughout my career. They can become very unpredictable and dangerous, especially when you're dealing with juveniles. Their frontal lobes haven't been fully formed. You have no idea what they are capable of and what they might do during that pursuit. Now, here's a problem with accountability on the juvenile level. Unfortunately, unless you charge a juvenile as an adult, they're gonna end up going into a Children's Detention Center, not the jail. We have to get permission to book them into the Children's Juvenile Detention Center. And even if these juveniles are held accountable, it is likely that these cases will be expunged when they reach 18 years old and they'll be released. This is part of the problem with the system. Juveniles who commit crimes with very little impunity and ultimately putting other citizens at risk. In the end, this was great police work. Nobody got hurt, very little damage, and the citizens of this state are safer today with these juveniles off the streets.
And what he just said is exactly why you see juveniles carrying out these acts. They know in most cases, you're just going to get a slap on the wrist. You're going to do some juvie. And at the age of 18, boom, your record's expunged. And you can carry on doing whatever it is you want. You didn't teach them anything. You didn't stop them from committing these crimes further. And it's a true tragedy. You know, if there would have been some sort of intervention that actually stopped them from doing these things, we might have had a different outcome. Maybe they wouldn't have turned out like this. But it's a sad reality in which we face. All right, guys, with that, we have now come to the end of the show. So if you haven't already, like, comment, share, follow, do all those things. We're going to send you on over to, I think, Joey. See who else is live and verify. It seems Yankee is still going. Wow. Yankee is still going. Crazy, crazy night. But let's see, we got We Are the Show going. I haven't sent you over to We Are the Show in a minute. Let's see what he's talking about today. Oh, well, he's doing news. So guess what? You're going to go to We Are the Show. Guys, when you get over to We Are the Show, do the super awesome thing. Do the super awesome thing and give him a like. Give him a repost. If you're not already following him, you know, make the determination. I recommend you follow everybody, especially when they're trying to be a smaller creator and grow. They're trying to do the same thing I'm doing. So I encourage you to do that. So with that, guys, until tomorrow, practice accurate attitude, stay humble, eat healthy, get fit, and for God's sakes, go fishing. Have a wonderful night, guys.